This episode is about pet cocks. This kind. And carburetors, though not actually this specific one.
Yep, so my beloved Ironhead left me on the side of the road. I rode it to work one morning and everything went fine, but on the way home that evening, it acted like it was running out of fuel and left me on the side of the road. So I swapped the bike over to reserve and made it to a gas station where I was expecting to fill it all the way up, but I only put 1.7 gallons in before it was overflowing out of the top of the tank. And I proceeded to then ride it home, and it seemed like it did okay on the way home. And I got it in the driveway and it was idling fine. Everything seemed okay, but I cut the bike off and walked in the house, and a few minutes later walked back out to start the bike back up, and it did not want to run.
Fucking Ironheads.
And I finally got it running good enough to get it back to my bike shed and out of the elements where I could work on it.
To the bike shed we go. For you, the Blue Harley. So my plan here is I'm going to take this line off the petcock and put another line on it, and drain the fuel out in the gas can, and pull the petcock out and see what's going on with the petcock. I'm probably going to end up taking the bowl off the carburetor, just see if there's some trash that's in there. I kind of wonder if the inline filter, not the inline filter, but you know, the filter on top of the petcock might be kind of dicked up, and we might be having some issues there. I don't really think that's draining very quickly. I realize it's only, 5/16 line, but it's kind of maybe a little slow. I don't know. I still think that should be plenty to fill a carburetor up and at least make the bike idle. Pulled the bowl off the carburetor while that was draining, and we'll walk over to the workbench. And there it is, sitting next to the S&S off of the other Sportster. And there's definitely some crap in it. You see those little white floaty bits? Kind of waxy looking. That's self-inflicted. I couldn't get the ball gasket to seat down in its groove very well, and you can see the remnants of it. A little bit of red grease that I kind of tacked it in there with, and I believe that white sort of waxy stuff is the result of gas and grease getting together. And I wonder if that's gotten up into the carburetor and that's actually causing my problem, not the petcock though. That petcock does seem like it's draining really slow, so I'm gonna let it drain the rest of the way out and then pull it. Okay, cleaned up the carburetor bowl, and I squirted some brake cleanup through the jets. I went ahead and flipped the petcock over to reserve and took my gas cap off just to facilitate the draining. But this has still been sitting here for like 15 minutes, and I bet I've only drained a gallon out of this thing. I'm not sure if there's a spec for that. I might flip through the shop manual later, but really it doesn't matter. I got other stuff to do out here in my disaster of a yard, so I'm gonna go try and work on some of this and just leave that draining.
And as you can see, once I pulled the petcock out, it looked pretty shitty. There's some trash on the screen, and the gasket, O-ring, seal, whatever at the bottom looked pretty crappy, so between that and the low flow, I decided to just shit can it and replace it with something nicer.
Okay, here's our new petcock. It is a Golan. They are made in America. I picked this one because I wasn't really crazy about the Pingles. I don't need high flow. This is maybe flows a little more than stock. I don't know. It's not advertised as like this crazy high volume, high flow like the Pingles are. And one of my buddies has a Pingle on his soft tail, and I don't like that the throw on it is fairly short and there's nothing to hold it in place. But this guy is what they call their click slick. So it actually clicks into place. And I'm going to read this right off the back of the package for y'all. If this petcock fails to perform by leaking, sticking, or not shutting off completely every time, we will fix it free of charge forever. Sounds pretty good to me. This was like $100, so we're gonna put it in the bike, and I hope this is the last petcock I ever buy for this motorcycle.
All right, so the new petcock is on, and this is off, on, back to off, reserve. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not entirely crazy about on kind of being like that, but actually when you're sitting on top of the bike, it's really not that bad. You just kind of give her the old reach around and yeah, get the juices flowing, I fill this thing back up with some gas. Make her go vroom vroom. It came with a mask.
Yeah.
Who are you? What are you?
Pumpkin King?
The Pumpkin King. Does the Pumpkin King want to help me start a motorcycle?
No,
Why not?
because I just came out here to show you. Bye.
Bye. Okay. Alright, so the petcock is in. I'm gonna go fuel on. Doesn't seem like we have any leaks, so that's all good. Turn the switch on, give her a little choke. Little accelerator pump. See what she do. Knocked the choke off a little too far. Hang on. And we've been having a lot of rain lately, and I was about to hop on the bike and go for a ride around the block, but it started raining and then just proceeded to rain all the way through the night. And I figured it was going to rain the rest of the weekend, but by Sunday afternoon it was blue skies and fluffy white clouds and feeling really nice outside. So Monday morning I woke up kind of early and went out to my bike shed, fired up the Harley and backed it out of the shed. It felt great Monday morning, starting to feel like fall. Finally. I hate the summertime here, it's so hot. But who could ask for a nicer day to ride a Harley to your work? And that last clip is pretty important. I thought I stalled the bike,
coming out in my driveway, but in hindsight, I don't think I did. I got on it and went up the street. Seemed like it was running perfectly fine until I started pulling a hill, leaving my house. Then it started shooting ducks out of the tailpipe, kind of backfiring through the exhaust. And what happened after that was really just, foreshadowing to how the next 24 hours of my life was going to go.
On the side of the road, just got this thing fired back up. It acted like it wanted to die on me. We'll keep going and see what happens.
Alright, so this thing cut off on me coming up a hill. Just started liking to sputter, shooting ducks out the exhaust. So I pulled over and see if I can get this thing to start back.
After that, I stopped to put some gas in the bike. I thought maybe it was running low on fuel. I tried it in reserve, and it still seemed like it was acting up. I only put 1.6 gallons in it, so obviously it wasn't out of gas.
So I'm back in the side of the road, cut off on me. It's like it just acts like it's running out of fuel. Let's see if it'll start back up. Like if you let it sit long enough, it'll fire back up. And when I left the gas station, it was running fine. And I made it a few miles up the road. It's like the longer I went, the worse it got. It's like it's running the carburetor out. You let it sit and it'll fill back up. And I just now noticed that's gas puking out of the overflow. There's the shop. Here's the bike, off again. Cut off on me turning into our road, and I was able to get it to crank back up and run. I just pop started it in second gear and hauled ass and coasted in the driveway. Same thing, I've been sitting here for like 20 seconds, as long as it took me to make that video, and it cranked right back up. So I'm gonna ride it up to the shop. And that's as far as I made it. So yeah, something's wrong, but at least I made it to work.
I then proceeded to pull the bike into the shop so that I could fool with it that day. We didn't have a whole lot going on. I dropped the carburetor bowl out of this thing and found some trash on it and underneath the needle. I cleaned it all up.
Okay, it is 5 o'clock. I'm going home from the shop. I tore the bottom end out of a C15 earlier today and then got a little slow. So
Chris and I got messing around with his Ironhead bobber. This is a 76. And I'm going to do a video about this, but we got fooling around with it. The back brake was locked up. I fixed that, and he worked on shift linkage. But
anywho's, I've cranked my Ironhead up a couple times today,
and hopefully everything's cool with it, at least good enough to get back home. So it rained pretty good earlier, but it's, as you can see, a nice sunshiny afternoon for now. And I'm gonna jump on this bad mamma jamma and see if it'll make it to the house. Well, I made it about 3 miles. Same thing, just puttering out on me like it's fucking dead. And I guess from all the stopping and starting today, yeah, fucking Christ, it's a brand new battery. Come on. I give it a couple of minutes and see if it'll kind of sort of come back to life a little bit without having headlights on. Trying to start it. Yeah, otherwise I'm just gonna sit here in the side of the road, you know, next to a cotton field in the middle of fucking nowhere, because that's where I live, which is cool. I like that. And I'm gonna wait on Tiffany. I called her and told her to bring some jumper cables, and thankfully I'm not far from the shop. I'll ride it back to the shop and just leave it there and she can take me home. So at least I can work on my tan.
So Tiffany showed up with the jumper cables and we got the bike running, but it didn't stay running for long. I only made it like 2 miles up the road before I ended up in the side of the road again. And I jumped in the car with her and had her bring me back to the shop so I could grab some tools to see if I could pull the bowl off the carburetor again and clean it all out. But when I did, I really didn't find very much inside the carburetor bowl, except for this small piece of trash under the needle and seat, which I don't really think is causing my problems. Anyway, she jumped me off again. The bike seemed like it was running okay, so I tried to haul ass up the road and didn't make it but a mile. I ended up leaving this bike in the barn of a really nice farmer who owns a farm a few miles up the road from my shop, and then went home. And the next morning I woke up and grabbed the four-wheeler and chained it up to my little motorcycle trailer and dragged the trailer from the backyard all the way up to the driveway and hooked it to the back of Tiffany's Durango. And we went over to the farm and I pushed the bike out from the barn next to the combine there, and me and Tiffany together pushed it up onto my little tilt trailer, though the front end didn't want to stay down, so she went and sat on it, which was kind of funny. And yeah, after that we strapped it down and headed up the road to my shop, and that's where it stayed. The bike's back at my shop. That's where it is currently as I'm filming this on Tuesday. And I'm probably just going to end up making another episode about fixing this. I realize this one's gone really long. I try and keep my videos short. I realize we live in the TikTok era where people's attention span is like 17.2 seconds. So the chances of you watching an 18-minute video about a Harley are slim to none. But if you've made it this far and you like what you've watched, like the absolute chaos of me owning this Ironhead, maybe subscribe. I don't know, if you're not already. That would be cool. Okay, I'm just going to wrap it up here. I don't really have anything else to say. I'm just glad the bike is safe, somewhere I can work on it. And it will get fixed. Stay tuned. Goodbye.